Happy Easter, folks. I hope you guys are doing well. Today is Easter Sunday, 2025. It is, I don't know what time it is. It's sometime. It's about 20 minutes till 10 o'clock in the morning on Easter Sunday. I'm giving myself a break for today and today only to be able to smoke in here because I've been doing so much research on this subject. I've been stuck in here for a little bit, so I'm slipping. I'm not off the wagon. I'm just hanging on to it. Being dragged along in the dust. Happy Easter, folks. This thing came out. And a number of folks, including Dr. Campbell and Meryl Nass and other folks, are all excited. They're all a tizzy because the Trump administration is telling the truth, speaking truth to power, as it says, as it said, about the true origins of COVID-19. They are not true. Ironically, they do have a picture of Donald Trump on the front page of this thing that was created and published a couple days ago. Ironically enough, understand this. We are currently in a trade war with China, one that Trump is losing. So much so that he had to publish some exceptions to the 245% tariff being imposed on Chinese goods. Those exceptions involve things like cell phones and microchips and other things in that industry that really help that industry. And the reason being because like T-Mobile and AT&T and all of these cell phone carriers offer cell phones sometimes for free or sometimes for very greatly reduced prices in order to bring people to their particular carrier service. And if they sign a contract or whatever, they get a free cell phone or greatly reduced cell phone at a greatly reduced price. Many of those cell phones are coming straight out of China. At 245% tariff, that would have meant the prices would have been astronomical. They couldn't have afforded it. And other businesses that get their cell phones from someplace else would have a unfair advantage. So Donald Trump backed off on some of those 245% tariffs, which is taken as a sign of weakness. People are saying he's already losing. China doesn't care about the fucking tariffs. They just put reciprocal tariffs back on us. So we're selling less products to fucking China now, which is hurting American businesses. And it turns out that it looks like China's going to win this thing. And as China is winning this thing, and, by the way, winning a lot more respect from the world and global leaders, Donald Trump and the folks who hate China in the establishment are left with egg on their face. Paya. The origins of COVID-19. China, 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 China. What a coincidence. Is it a new study? No. Is it a study commissioned and done by Donald Trump for this? No. This is kind of like the JFK stuff. I've got this new JFK stuff. I'm going to show you the new JFK stuff. Here you go. And everyone goes, oh, this is awesome, because everything Donald Trump, everyone that he deals with is supposed to say, oh, this is awesome. You're such a god. Thank you, Pharaoh Trump. Turns out it was nothing we hadn't seen before. It's garbage. Same with this. This is copy and pasted from the investigation done during the Biden administration that wrapped up in May of 2024 and was published finally in December 4th 2024. You can thank the Biden administration for this. Also turns out that the Central Intelligence Agency in January 2025, everyone says, oh my God, the CIA says China did COVID-19. That's not exactly what they wrote. What they wrote was there's a low probability, we ascertained with a low probability, that it could have leaked from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And that we think that it's an even kind of toss-up between that and a bat fucking a pangolin. Pangolin? I blew that joke. Sorry about that. Yeah. A bat fucking a pangolin in a bowl of bat soup while somebody was eating it. So it's a toss-up. That's what the CIA's fucking report said. With low probability. And of course that was, everyone says China did it. What's the point of this? The point of this is we are in the White House is in a robust fight with China in terms of trade, in terms of it's trade war, right? That's the reality. This is just somebody trying to turn up some heat with this ridiculous fucking, bringing this back up from December of 2024, bringing this back up, and I mean literally copying and pasting. I'll show you. I'm not making this up. I will show you. All of it. All of what I've just said, I will show you. Literally copying and pasting what was done during the Biden administration by a bunch of people who were already on board with demonizing China. Because there is a conflict, there's a war in the heavens, and trade is a part of it. I told you how important trade was. That's why we wanted to go after Panama. That's why we wanted to go after Greenland, because Greenland, and make Canada 51st state so that we can control that all-important fucking trade route up there and the trade route down in Panama. So we can put the thumb screws to China and anybody who prefers to trade with China. And of course we know BRICS is growing. Our influence is diminishing. And of course, there's the de-dollarization issue. So anything like this they can do, even just rehashing stupid stuff. Even just rehashing stupid stuff. It's like, bring up the Warren Commission. Go, oh, look, the Warren Commission said it was a lone nut gunman with a magic bullet. There you go, must be true. Anything that comes out of one of their studies must be true. Like, say, the 9/11 Commission report. Must be true, it came out of one of their studies. That's all this is. John Campbell said, oh, it's so great that the Americans are being open and honest and thorough and thorough in their investigation into what happened. Bullshit. Bull fucking shit. China, 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 China. Let me tell you something. In 2013, I'm going to try to paint a little picture for you, just as a narrative, and then we'll go over it and I'll show you all the stuff. In 2013, after another fucking leak in 2012 from one of our facilities here in the United States. Why am I fuzzy? Because I shouldn't even be looking at it, but I have to. I'm so vain. Yeah, but then the other one's fuzzy. That's good enough. After another leak of a dangerous fucking level 4 contagion, we decided as a country that we didn't want these gain of function studies being done in the United States anymore. We didn't want them being done, period, anymore, because there's no point in it. Let's make a dangerous, lethal virus so we can say, oh, okay, that just in case nature makes this dangerous, lethal virus with the furin cleavage site, which is impossible, by the way. and then we can learn how to fix it, how to combat it. That's the dumbest fucking justification ever. No. They make these things as bioweapons. And so, during the Obama administration, back in 2013, Congress came up and said, we don't want these things being done anymore. So, they said, okay. And they shut down the facilities doing the stuff, all the work at these facilities, these level 4 facilities, being done in the United States. As that was happening, and they knew it was happening, they started putting money into building facilities outside the United States. There were 5, I believe. But the main one being the Lugar Center in Tbilisi, Georgia, which opened for business in 2014, where they tested, researched, and did gain-of-function research, did gain-of-function work on various novel viruses and things, the dangerous shit. They dealt with dangerous shit, very dangerous shit. That was in 2014. Around the same time, if I'm not mistaken, the Department of, this is all Department of Defense, by the way, the Department of Defense started to build, through outside means, a company that would specialize in the manufacturing of medicines, but mostly vaccines made with a new type of emerging technology, the messenger RNA technology. That company that was funded through DARPA and then through various means to cover it up, but that company was called Moderna. Okay? You with me so far? Good. Now remember, during an interview, Burla, the head of the CEO of fucking Pfizer, was asked, why did you guys make a mRNA vaccine as opposed to Sinovac or AstraZeneca or any of these others, Sputnik 5, whatever, Sputnik V, whatever? Why didn't you use an attenuated virus vaccine or any of the other types of vaccines where you give somebody a small amount of the virus, their own bodies manufacture the antibodies, and then they develop their own immunity system to it? Why wouldn't you guys do that? You were familiar with doing that. You'd done it before. Why didn't you do that? And then Burla, during the interview, said, well, they came to me and they told me they needed us to make a vaccine for COVID-19 quickly. And could we do it? And I said, yes. He said, and he talked about the other types of vaccines that they had made before. And he goes, no, they told me you need to make an mRNA vaccine. And he said, well, we've never had an mRNA vaccine and never used mRNA in human. He said, they told me it needed to be an mRNA vaccine. So now you got Moderna set and ready to go from the Department of Defense, but you also have somebody from an entity big enough to talk to a CEO of a major trillion-dollar fucking company the size of Pfizer telling them you're going to put your company, not just a reputation, but your company itself, on the line with an untested type of vaccine based on mRNA technology. You're going to do that and not any other kind of vaccine. And he had to go with it. Now, do you think some fucking jackleg doctor or virologist is who he was talking about when he said they told me we were going to do an mRNA vaccine? Would somebody working for Pfizer have that kind of pull to be able to dictate that Pfizer is going to take that kind of risk at a time when lots of these things would be jabbed in people's arms? I don't think so. In fact, I know it's not. It had to be somebody, when he said, they told me it was going to be an mRNA vaccine, something bigger than Pfizer was dictating what was going to happen. So remember, we have Pfizer being strong-armed into producing these things, and we have Moderna, who have been set in place for this very moment in history. And who set them in place? Understand this. If you wanted to flood the world with a novel pandemic, a novel virus, a novel coronavirus, let's say, and create a pandemic from it, how would you go about doing that? Would you create the thing? We'll talk about that in a second. Would you create the thing and then ship a little bit here and ship a little bit there and ship a little bit here? And then when people said, how did this virus, by the way, with a furin cleavage site manufactured into it, so it's clear it's manufactured, how would it get from this place to this place to this place to this place simultaneously? How is that possible? It isn't possible. Ergo, somebody had to have sent it. And so then, it's a different kind of investigation. One that can be done, but it's a different kind of investigation. Are you with me? So, you wanted to go around the world in a short period of time, but you need one location. One location where you can set it in motion, release it, and then it'll incubate and get a bunch of people there sick, and those people will then go to the rest of the places in the world carrying it with them. They'll get on planes, they'll get on ships, they'll get on cruise ships, they'll get on Navy military ships, and they will take it with them. And some will be sick, some will be carriers, but not necessarily sick from it. And it will leach out to the rest of the world that way. Okay? That's the best way to do it. Now, if you were, say, I don't know, somebody in Defense Threat Reduction Agency or the Department of Defense who wanted to do this, okay, so you got one location. Let's say you got the Olympics in Paris. Well, the question is, how did this thing get to Paris? Why is this thing in Paris, and all of a sudden, all these athletes are infected in Paris? Why is that? How could that be? You have a different investigation. Here's a better idea. You want to be able to blame this because eventually someone's going to figure out the furin cleavage site. It was manufactured. Yes, it was Ralph Barrick's signature work. But you want to be able to point a finger at somebody else. So what do? Say, well, other people have worked with Ralph Barrick and learned the furin cleavage site technique, and they know. So when it was discovered that it was actually tampered with and manufactured, you would need that location, that hub, to be somewhere near a facility that could have, in fact, leaked it by accident. Not the pangolin bat fucking in a bowl of soup, but it leaked, you see, by accident. All of those things, that perfect storm, bringing all those people together in a fucking country where you want to target, right next to a goddamn facility where it could have been leaked from, all of that came into fruition in October of 2019. The same time they were running Event 201, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, World Economic Forum, and of course Johns Hopkins University, gaming a possible situation. How would they deal with the outbreak of a pandemic of a novel coronavirus. What a coincidence. That was October 2019, and that was the Wuhan Military Games, where you had 9,000 plus athletes all gathered together doing jiu-jitsu and karate and boxing and all kinds of events where they had to intermingle with other athletes. So if you were able to create a highly fucking contagious flu-like coronavirus that had a higher mortality rate for certain people, not for younger people, but for certain people, and the best thing you could do is give a few jabs when you were giving folks inoculations, give a few jabs to athletes who were going to be in those games. Right? Whether it was Ukrainian athletes, whether it was American athletes, whether they were athletes from Palau, wherever your military has an influence on other countries' military and can say, hey, give these to your guys. Okay. Wherever that happened, out of the 100 and something odd fucking nations who participated, you could easily infect that large contingent of people who had come from all over the world to participate, to cheer, to watch their loved ones whom they hugged afterwards, before and during, perhaps, I don't know. And then those people would hop on the planes and cough on the planes and go back home to where they were going with a plane full of people infected with SARS-CoV-2. Do you understand? It was, in a nutshell, brilliant. Like watching the controlled demolition of the Twin Towers. It was breathtaking. But that's what it was. This is what happened. This is the true origins of COVID-19. It allows them to start the fucking pandemic with the thing they created themselves in order to present the fucking cure. You create the crisis, and then you create the fucking solution to the crisis. You present which was the mRNA jabs, which, by the way, did not protect you from catching it, prevent you from carrying it, prevent you from transmitting it, prevent you from getting sick from it, or prevent you from dying from it. Even though when we talked about that to start with back in 2020 and 2021, people like myself talked about that, and of course scholars and real doctors and fucking nurses and people like that and virologists, they were attacked. We were attacked. Then of course later it turns out, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. So what was it? What exactly was it? What was the whole point? To shut down international commerce? For the fucking lockdowns? By the way, for those of you who think of this man still as some kind of hero, understand this. This time around, he and Doge and Elon Musk and all the rest vote, and all of these people with Project 2025, they want to destroy this fucking country and tear it apart, amendment by amendment, constitutional protection by constitutional protection. So much for checks and balances. No, fuck you. Fuck you, Supreme Court. Fuck you, Congress. He is the unitary executive. That is his intention. That is what he's doing. Why is it so fucking difficult to understand? That's what they did with fucking COVID-19. This country was shut down. And I did a video and wrote about it, I think in March or April of 2020. I said, listen, The whole point of the lockdowns and the fucking masks and the social distancing and work from home is not about protecting you from the virus. It's protecting the virus from you so that you don't have natural immunity building up, which will eventually, I didn't see it then, but eventually, if that had happened and it had come and gone, gotten into our fucking system, and then our systems had developed natural immunity to it, which we then share with her through herd immunity, it would have been gone. And they would never had the opportunity to come forward with the emergency to get the FDA and the CDC to fucking agree to untested jabs and all kinds of fucking people. Because that, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, was what it was all about. It wasn't an accident. They didn't let it happen on purpose. They made it happen. We made it happen. If you go look at this, it's all China, 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 China. But it wasn't. It never was. Happy Easter, folks. Let's take a look. Early, again, going back to the theory of the Wuhan Games, early in March and then later in April, there was a massive outbreak of COVID-19 on the USS Theodore Roosevelt. It wasn't the only massive outbreak. The USS Kidd had a massive outbreak in early April of 2020. A number of sailors from these vessels competed in the Wuhan Games. Okay? Looks like somebody is pulling up in front of my house for some reason. No, they're backing up. No, they're parking. No, I don't know what the fuck they do. I'm not the only one who's pointed out the fact that the military games in Wuhan were clearly linked to early COVID cases. Clearly. This is from April 10th, 2025. This was not that long ago, folks. The World Military Games in October of 2019 brought together 9,000 athletes from 100 countries in the city of Wuhan, China, to compete in an Olympic-style event for service members. As it turns out, many who attended soon became very ill with symptoms that we later learned were very similar to those of a new virus named COVID-19. Months later, top military officials under President Trump were asked about the outbreak. A reporter asked Defense Secretary Mark Esper, was there any special screening for the military team that went to Wuhan, the athletic team? And Esper responded, I'm not aware what you're talking about, and walked away. And that was April 14th, 2020. That was early in the process. June of 2021, Mike Gallagher, who has since left Congress, sent a letter to the Defense Department asking for a full investigation into how many service members became ill and how far the virus may have spread. In an interview on Fox News, he said, establishing a timeline is critical to understanding where this came from and critical to getting past what I believe to be a systemic cover-up, oh my goodness, by the Chinese party. Turns out, an investigation did occur, which led to a report from the Department of Defense. It's dated December 2022. Service members who attended the games exhibited COVID-19 like signs and or symptoms during the time frame of October 18th, 2019, 7 service members, through January 21st, 2020. While the report was released at the House Senate Armed Services Committee at the time, Biden administration is now being accused of suppressing it. I don't know how they suppressed it. It's 2022, I guess so. In late January, the CIA shifted its assessment, concluding that the virus most likely originated in a lab in Wuhan, China, but not far from where the military games took place. That is, bullshit. Quote, the CIA assesses with low confidence that a research-related origin of COVID-19 pandemic is more likely than a natural origin based on the available body of reporting, a CIA spokesperson said in a statement on Saturday, adding that CIA continues to assess that both research-related and natural origin scenarios of COVID-19 pandemic remain plausible. The agency hadn't previously made any determination on whether COVID had been unleashed by a laboratory mishap or spilled over from animals. Beijing on Monday urged the United States to stop politicizing and instrumentalizing the issue of origin tracing. That was published by CBS January of this year. They show you a picture of the Wuhan Institute of Virology. These are the Wuhan Games. You have no idea. 9,000 athletes from 100 countries participated in this. That's a lot of people. And of course, they had family who had traveled there, friends. They were tens of thousands of people in Wuhan in multiple locations. I want to show you really quickly. I hope I pulled this up. Maybe I didn't. To do it again? Here we go. Okay. I want to show you something. Of course, this is the White House's bullshit, where they just simply copy and paste the December 4th, 2024 final report put together by the investigation, the COVID inquiry, which ended in May of 2024 from Congress, put together by a bunch of people who get paid to hate on China. Okay? We'll go over that in a second. But here's the original. Virus possesses a biological characteristic that's not found in nature. That's the Fear and Cleavage site. Manufactured. Data shows that all COVID-19 cases stem from a single introduction into humans. That is the Wuhan Games. Wuhan is China's foremost SARS research lab, which has a history of gain-of-function research at inadequate biosafety levels. That's not true. The World Health Organization did a study. It went down there with a bunch of people, all these experts. They looked into it, and they concluded it wasn't substandard and did not, in all likelihood, come from a lab leak in Wuhan. Who has a history of lab leaks? We do, by the way. That's why they stopped doing that shit in the United States during the Obama days, and they created the Lugar Center in Tbilisi, Georgia. More on that in a second. These points right here are not Donald Trump's. These come straight out of the congressional hearing. Wuhan Institute of Virology researchers were sick with COVID-like symptoms in the fall of 2019, months before COVID-19 was found at the wet market. Why is that? Did they attend any of the events for this massive global fucking event? Yes. Of course they did. Did they have family members who worked at some of the venues? Yes, of course they did. So that's pointless. That's not proof of anything. That's proof that it started likely at a location in Wuhan. The fact that it then spread globally means that people who were attending the event took it with them back to their homes. And, by the way, back to the naval ships that they were on. So that's not proof of anything. By nearly all measures of science, if there was evidence of a natural origin, it would have already surfaced, but it hasn't. True. Is any of this, the fact that they have a Institute of Virology in that town, and the fact that some people were sick a month before, 2 months before, when we know, in all likelihood, it came from the Wuhan Games. So is that any information? Is that any kind of proof? No. And here we go. Here we go. Look at that. Look how close the Wuhan seafood market is. How does it get from the Wuhan Institute of Virology to the seafood market? To a pangolin or a fucking bat in a bowl of soup? What's the Wuhan seafood market got to do with anything? Why is it? Let me show you something. That's where the fucking pangolins are at the market. This is the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And this is the main fucking location of the Wuhan Sports Center. But the games were all over the place. All sorts of venues. Might even been right next door. Actually, it was. Part of them were in Hongshan. Were they? Was it Hongshan? No, the Hothu block. My fault. The Hothu block. I don't know what Hothu is. Do we see a Hothu anywhere? No. Point is, there were thousands of people. And then tens of thousands of people who were exposed to it at the Wuhan Games. But what are we told? Oh no, look. There's a pangolin up here, fucking a bat in a bowl of soup. Why? Many times when you do something like this, what isn't stated is just as important as what is. And in fact, many times more important. Why are they so keen on keeping the Wuhan Games of 2019 out of the equation? Why? I've got a number of things that I've covered on this. Here's an interesting one. Again, we're talking about the U.S. military. This is from Reuters, and it was published, I don't know what time it was, when it was. I don't know what it was. Maybe a year ago. I don't know why. This is the United States military doing this. At the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. military launched a secret campaign to counter what it perceived as China's growing influence in the Philippines, a nation hit especially hard by the deadly virus. The clandestine operation has not been previously reported. It aimed to sow doubt about the safety and efficacy of vaccines and other life-saving aid that were being supplied by China, the Sinovax. Through phony internet accounts meant to impersonate Filipinos, the military's propaganda efforts morphed into an anti-vax campaign. Social media posts decried the quality of face masks, test kits, and the first vaccine that would become available in the Philippines, China's Sinovac inoculation. Why would the military be trying to stop a nation from using a vaccine that wasn't one of their mRNA jabs? And who did that? The U.S. military. World Economic Forum at one point in time said, you know what, the whole thing about COVID-19 was just a test to see if we could control people, how well we could control them, how well we could manipulate them. This is straight from that 2024, December 2024 report, the COVID inquiry from Congress talking about the World Health Organization. And this is, social distancing, masks, lockdowns, all of these things. They didn't tell you what I told you. They said they didn't work, and they were odd that they would do this. It wasn't odd. There was a logic to it. And I've told you what the logic was. They were protecting the virus from herd immunity because they needed the virus to remain a threat. They needed the crisis to remain until they had the solution. But this is something that the House Oversight Committee came up with about the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization's response to COVID-19 pandemic was an abject failure because it caved to pressure from the Chinese Communist Party and placed China's political interest ahead of its international duties. What does that mean? That means they sent a team of experts from all over the world to the World Wuhan Institute of Virology to see if, in fact, it could have leaked from Wuhan, and of course it didn't. And they came to that conclusion that it couldn't have come from Wuhan Institute of Virology, but they said, of course, the China haters in the United States Congress said, oh, well, that just means they're corrupt and taking bribes from the Chinese. Based on what? Based on the fact that it had to have come from the World Health Organization, from Wuhan Institute of Virology, because that's how it got to fucking, how else would it get to Wuhan? Because, of course, they don't tell you what was right over here. Over here, actually. The Wuhan Games. Leaked emails reveal secrets of dual-use bio projects between the United States and Ukraine. They were giving all kinds of, running tests on Ukrainian soldiers. Running tests on Ukrainian soldiers. Giving them all kinds of jabs. Ukraine was one of many that participated in the fucking games. It was 172 from the United States. And then you figure any number of other countries where we have influence over their military. And you get the sense of how many people showed up at the Wuhan Games already infected with SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19. This is from Meryl Nass, who is one of the people who said, well, yeah, this thing is great. It's great to see the Trumpster doing this and telling all that truth. But even she has to admit, oh, we don't really know. The reason she has to admit, oh, we don't really know is because, she had published this a couple months ago. It took me a while to scroll down and find this. Quote, perhaps the most compelling reason to suspect an American origin, though, is the telling fact that SARS-CoV-2 transmits efficiently in only 5 known mammals. 4 of those 5, American deer mice, Syrian hamsters, American mink, and Egyptian fruit bats, are commonly found in U.S. labs, including Anthony Fauci's high-security Rocky Mountain lab in Montana. The 5th animal, an American white-tailed deer, is prevalent across the United States. On the other hand, SARS-CoV-2 doesn't infect lab animals commonly used in Chinese labs or present in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, such as Chinese horseshoe bats. What does that mean? That means, according to a study put together by this individual, she didn't write this. Will Jones wrote this. Again, I'll post the links to this down below. And posted a year ago on Meryl Nass's thing, it is almost impossible and highly unlikely, because in Wuhan, they wouldn't have been able to import the animals from the United States, or at least there's no record of them doing so, and no record of them using those fucking animals. So they couldn't have grown it in these animals or allowed it to make the zoonotic leap, the zoonotic jump from the coronavirus, the bat coronavirus where it was found, the unique coronavirus, the novel coronavirus found in bats. So there's more proof that it came from either a lab in America, maybe North Carolina, where Ralph Barrick works, or an American lab that uses American techniques and possibly even American animals someplace outside of the United States. Like, say, I don't know, Tbilisi, Georgia. I want to show you something here. I've done a bunch of this stuff on this topic. Oh, there's another campaign against Russia and China, run by the military. It was always about protecting the virus. That's what I told you to start with. And look up Deep VZN, Predict Project. We've been doing it since. But I wanted to find this article for you. On Disease X, Deep VZN, Event 201, Lugar Center, and excess deaths debate in Parliament. That's the birthplace of Disease X. That's the Lugar Center. It's not Wuhan Institute of Virology. That's how it worked. Rona patient 0 were likely Ukraine soldiers sent to Wuhan Games in 2019. I produced that video in April 2023. Same thing I just told you. But I want to find this link for you. Oh, look at that. Dr. Campbell's been doing this for 2 years, framing fucking China. And here it is. This is what I wanted to find for you. New data link from the data link from the Pentagon Biolaboratory in Georgia was published September 2020. I had to republish it. This is an archive. It's from Arms Watch. In here, this lays out what happened when a Georgian member of parliament retired or quit or was out, and as he left, he decided to drop a few little tidbits of knowledge on the people in Georgia. One of which, the big one which, was the Lugar Center. The Lugar Center is just one of many Pentagon biolaboratories in 25 countries across the world. They're funded by the U.S. Defense Threat Reduction Agency, DTRA, under a $2 billion military program, Cooperative Biological Engagement Program, and are located in former Soviet Union countries such as Georgia, Ukraine, Middle East, and other places in Africa. Pentagon research on bioterrorism agents at the Lugar Center. And all kinds of things going on there. Here's Project 1050, zoonotic infections with fever and skin injuries in Georgia. But here's the big one. Here's the interesting one. This is the one that'll get you go, oh, look at that. Project 1742. risk of bat-borne zoonotic diseases in Western Asia. When does this project end? The project ran through 23rd of October 2019 through EcoHealth Alliance. That was just one of their contracts, one of many. But it ended, this particular, looking for bat-borne zoonotic diseases in Western Asia in October of 2019. In 2017, the U.S. Defense Threat Reduction Agency launched a $6.5 million project on bats and coronaviruses in Western Asia: Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkey, and Jordan, with the Lugar Center being the local laboratory for this genetic research. The duration of this program is 5 years and has been implemented by the nonprofit U.S. organization EcoHealth Alliance. The project's objectives are capture and non-lethally sample 5,000 bats, collect 20,000 samples, and screen for coronaviruses using consensus PCR at regional labs in Georgia, Lugar Center, and Jordan. According to the project presentation, EcoHealth Alliance already sampled 270 bats of 9 species in Western countries. This is a woman taking a fucking sample. We don't know if that's one of the bats from these places that were contracted to collect bats with novel coronaviruses and send them to Tbilisi in Georgia for this quote-unquote testing. Or if that's one of the American bats that was listed in her article as being unique to the United States, what bat is that? Egyptian fruit bats. It's not unique to the United States, obviously, but an Egyptian fruit bat. This could very likely be an image of someone in the process of making SARS-CoV-2. Coincidentally, the same Pentagon contractor tasked with the U.S. Department of Defense Bat Research Program, EcoHealth Alliance, also collected bats and isolated coronaviruses along with Chinese scientists at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. EcoHealth Alliance received a $3.7 million grant from the United States National Institute of Health, which is the National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Diseases, headed up by, you guessed it, Anthony Fauci. There you go. The origins of COVID-19. This came from a video. The video, they're speaking English, not Chinese. There's a ton more of stuff, obviously, on my website that you can find and look at. There was and still is. This was April 10th, 2025. A number of people with very good reason bringing up the military games in Wuhan, whereas in this case, there's no mention of it. And again, with very good reason. We had multiple outbreaks on U.S. naval ships. And of course, in the aftermath of all of this stuff, what did the military do? The military ran around and it conducted psychological operations to try to stop people in Russia and people in nations from buying the Russian fucking vaccine and the Chinese vaccine, which are the two biggest sellers, aside from, of course, Pfizer and Moderna. Why would the military be that concerned about it? If they weren't concerned about putting fucking as many jabs in as many arms as possible, which is what created this whole thing in the first goddamn place. And very few people talk about this anymore. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has scrubbed Children's Health Defense Network on their website of invaluable information. Stuff going back years. They've scrubbed it up. It's all gone. No more questions about the COVID-19 vaccine. No more questions about myocarditis and pericarditis. No more questions about blood clots. No more questions about fast growth cancer. I still ask these questions. I still publish this information when I come across it. Obviously, we have Gaza to worry about. Obviously, we have fucking Nazi America to worry about. But this, people out there telling you this is a great thing, this is not a great thing. This is just playing politics with China. Well, you're gonna make fun of us and talk about me backtracking on all my goddamn tariffs and this tariff trade war. Oh, here you go. Here's a picture of Donald Trump, and we're gonna blame you, China, for SARS-CoV COVID-19. We did it, and by we I mean the U.S. Department of Defense. Do you recall, any of you, what social distancing did? They fucking put chains up on fucking gates, 9-foot tall fences. They put chains on the gates so kids couldn't go play in the sunlight. Basketball. And when that didn't work, they went up there and actually took down the hoop and the net. And then chained it up. So kids wouldn't have any reason to climb over the fucking fence and go play in the sunlight and fresh air with other kids. Because we didn't want them sharing fucking antibodies. If one or two of them had COVID and gotten over it. We didn't want that. We had people, some countries even put these stupid things with these pool fucking those foam pool things, like, 3-foot long ones, I forget what the fuck they call them, but they had hats with these things sticking out in front of them for kids, little kids. Made the kids wear these stupid things walking around so they'd be, 6 feet away from other kids with these stupid fucking things sticking out on top of their heads. Making kids play in fucking concerts from fucking middle school and high school on stage in fucking bubbles. Do you have any idea how fucking crazy that is? And yeah, Anthony Fauci was given carte blanche. Whatever crimes that they have accused him of or may accuse him of in the future, he can't be prosecuted. He can't be prosecuted for helping to produce a biological weapon that was then unleashed on the world at the Wuhan Games in 2019 by the U.S. military. And Anthony Fauci, for his part, cannot be held accountable for that. And you say, well, that's Joe Biden's got evil Biden, Trump good. Who put him in charge of our fucking response to COVID-19? He did. He then empowered the military at warp speed with a bunch of billions of dollars to run around and set up these big tents in places in parking lots where people would wait in line for hours to get those all-important shots, to get them in our arms as fast as humanly possible before they could be tested. Remember that, right? Again, the military. Anyway, have a good Easter. I hope you guys enjoy your Sunday, and I will talk to you next time. I'm going to try to put this up on YouTube, but it'll probably give me a strike, and if it does, so be it. Have a good Easter, folks.